Jamie, Farrell, thank you so much for this time. I'm so excited to speak to you both about both of your experiences. Obviously, Jamie, I've heard a lot of yours. I'm so inspired by everything that you've gone through. But Farrell's here, and I think it's very exciting to talk about both people's experiences. Thank you for doing this.
Pleasure to be here.
Thank you, John. Thanks for being here.
Of course. So I have questions for you both individually, and we're going to go back and forth so that we get to hear from both of you. Jamie, to start, I'd love to find out from you, what was your biggest fear when it came to telling Farrell? Because you probably found out the news individually and then you had to tell him separately, correct?
Sort of. When I had gone into to get my mammogram, I was called into my radiologist's office, which I knew right away that something was wrong because that doesn't typically happen. So I had found out that they saw something on the screen in the ultrasound mammogram, and he told me about calcifications that were in there, groupings of calcifications with an associated mass. So I knew right away that something was wrong. I did call Farrell on the phone from my car when I left and told him that they saw something. So I wasn't really fearful about telling him at that point, but a couple of days later, or actually, excuse me, that night we were going to a concert, and it was an outdoor concert, and we have a radiologist friend who I sent the results to, and he had told me that he was going to look at them later on that day, and then he would call me around 6 or 6:30 to let me know what he saw. And that's when we were standing in line for a concert, and I got the phone call. I went off into the distance, and he had told me that it was a 95% chance or more that it was breast cancer. So when I came back to tell Farrell and my dad was there and a couple of friends, I told them, and I definitely saw a wave wash over Farrell's face. So I wasn't really fearful at that time to tell him. It was later when I started to get fearful about what we were about to embark on. So, and that, anyway, so that's later on, I was fearful of how that was going to impact his life.
But this also reminds me that when she was setting up the appointment for the mammogram, she told the nurse or scheduler, "Oh, I haven't had any symptoms at all. I'm feeling fine." And I turned to her and I said, No, you told me you've been feeling kind of weird. Something's going on in there. And so she then set up a diagnostic mammogram to look deeper in there. So I kind of gave her a little push, which she was going to kind of, just maybe brush off a little bit, although she's very in tune with her own body. But she had told me that she had some weird sensations and weird feelings, and she didn't relay that to the scheduler at the time. So that's kind of where we started.
I'd love to dig into that a little bit more, because some couples are not like the two of you who are so good with communication with each other about health related things. A lot of couples don't share with each other. And had Jamie not shared with you that she wasn't feeling all that great, or that she had felt lumps or whatnot, you wouldn't have been able to communicate back to her or remind her. Talk to us about the process that the two of you have gone through to become a couple that can be open with each other related to health things and just talk about things so normally and be in each other's lives that way.
Well, Farrell and I are pretty in tune with each other's bodies. And so going back to what he just explained, I go in and get a mammogram every year. The only year that I had to push it off was during 2020 of COVID. And so I remember feeling a lump, but I always felt lumps, and because I have lumpy boobs because I have a dense breast tissue, but he had also felt it, so I actually took his hand one night and said, "Do you feel this?" And he said, "I feel this." And when I was on the phone with the nurse, the scheduler, I I didn't really say anything because I knew that I was going in 3 weeks to get my mammogram. So I thought, they'll find it. But I did. I hung up the phone and he goes, "That's not true. You did feel a lump and you have felt some things." And so yeah, I mean, it's nice that he was sitting there and listening to me and kind of pushed me to pick the phone back up, and they moved it up by 3 weeks, because if you feel a lump or anything, any kind of symptoms, they will move it up regardless of what insurance tells you or not. So um but we just notice things about each other. Farrell and I've always been very in tune with each other's minds and bodies.
I think, yeah, we've always communicated pretty well together. We started dating, I guess, middle age. What was I, about 38 at the time? And so we were more mature in the way we tried to approach each other. Not that we haven't had miscommunication problems and stuff like that, but we're both in the same profession. We're both teachers. We worked together. We collaborated together. We led a lot of professional development together. In fact, in our school district, we were known as the Vaughns, because quite often we showed up together to help with best practices and help other new teachers, things like that. So we've always had, strong teamwork, in that way and other ways, I guess. So we've always communicated together pretty well. And that's gone along since we retired as well. We've always spent a lot of time together, and we are now spending even more time together, which is fine. We're great.
Yes, that's beautiful. For both of you, what would you advise younger couples or even just couples who don't have as good of a communication, I guess, style or communication habit between the two of them? Because this collaboration between the two of you ultimately, I think, is, we're going to get more into that, but it's so, so important. So what advice would you give to other couples?
Personalities can get in the way sometimes. I can be a bit stubborn, strong-headed about things, and sometimes I think it's important to just step back and try to really understand where your partner's coming from and how you can help to, create a better relationship and atmosphere and work your way through problems and situations. Of course, we've gone to therapy as well. We're getting some therapy to help us communicate and work through these things, and I think that's very important as well. Of course, I was very, typical male, or no, I don't want to, spend my day talking to a therapist and stuff. But I think it really is helpful, and it gives you a lot to think about and a lot to try to reassess your own position in the relationship, and be a better human being and a better partner.
I can tell you guys are quite close because you're even sitting so close. This way is very cute.
Well, we have to, John, because just kidding. We're always pretty close. We
Yes.
hold hands.
I love it.
We've gone through a lot of therapy throughout our whole entire marriage. We've been together for 21 years, and I helped raise Farrell's 3 children, and we've gone to therapy because of that, issues that we've had throughout the years. And I do think it's important to be able to sit down and really talk about sometimes the elephant in the room, things that are just very, very difficult to talk about, because even though we do have a lot of similar thought processes and experiences, we have a lot of differences too in the way that we look at things, not only just being a man and a woman, but we're both very strong people, strong-minded, stubborn, things like that. But, sitting down and having a conversation with somebody who really doesn't know us at all, and helping us realize and hold space for what each other are thinking and feeling and why they're feeling that way, has been very, very helpful. And there are times where we've been to counseling, then we stop going to counseling, then we run into another issue, and then we go again. So yes, right now we have been in therapy since March, because even though my breast cancer is no longer there, we're still on a healing path, and that doesn't end. And I think we just ran into some things that we needed to find someone who could really get us through.
I think conflict is natural, and it can lead to growth. Of course, it can be very painful as well, trying to get through that sometimes. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's going to happen. Disagree on things. We've had disagreements throughout this year of treatments and recovery as well.
Yes. And so important that the two of you have that base of communication so that you can get through the conflict as well. One of the reasons why I am really excited about this episode is because somebody might be listening and they might be going through early stages of finding out, and they don't really know how to tell their partner. So Farrell, you being here and being able to tell those who are listening or watching what's going on your end is so insightful and helpful. For you, what was your first response when you found out this?
I was frightened, very scared for Jamie's health. Didn't know exactly. Sorry, I said and that's a habit of mine. But
don't worry, there's editing, so it's okay.
Yeah,
keep going.
I'm a believer in science. We had a very good team. The radiologist, a good friend of ours, he's very well respected. He was the one who diagnosed us. He helped coach us a little bit. He advised us on the medical team we were putting together, the physicians. Jamie had some outstanding, some of the best doctors in the region, surgeon and oncologist, and the team of oncologists and others who are working on looking at her case and trying to help us get through it. And a lot of it was just trust. I was trusting the medical team to do the best thing. I didn't know where we were going with this, what the course of action would be early on. Didn't know that it would lead to, I suspected chemo would come up, maybe radiation, mastectomy, not sure, lumpectomy, not sure. So there were a lot of unanswered questions on how this was going to work out. So I really tried in many ways to kind of keep an open mind and just kind of flow with a lot of things that were going on and just deal with things one day at a time as they came up. That was really my approach to it. But watching Jamie go through it and have to suffer through a lot of the agony of the treatment, the chemo and the mastectomy and the reconstruction and everything else. It's painful. It's hard to watch someone you love go through that. And, of course you want to try to protect him, and I couldn't protect her because I'm I'm part of the team, but I don't have the medical expertise, to even understand some of the things they were talking about. My knowledge has grown radically about, bone marrow and hemoglobin levels and, the different types of cancers, the HER2 positive, and the different types of cancers. So not that I'm an expert in any way, but my knowledge has grown with that as well.
Mm-hmm. I mean, this was your first time, Jimmy's first time going through something like this. So there's no way that anything would be done with the ability to have learned from the past. And so if you were to, let's say, go in hindsight now and know what you've gone through, would you have handled anything in the beginning differently? If so, what would that be? Because I think it'd be very helpful to some of the spouses who might be listening right now.
I'm not so sure I would handle anything differently. I mean, as I said, I'm trying to do one day at a time and just try to deal with every day. Very stressful at times. I think for partners and caregivers, it's important for you to try to take care of yourself a bit too. So you want to take care of your partner and caregiver, but you also, and be there for them at all times and support them as much as possible. But you also need to take time out for yourself. So, I might go for a bike ride or a hike for a couple hours and be gone. I might go hit some golf balls, for a couple hours and then come back and check. And, but a lot of time is really spent around the house and, helping Jamie taking her to all her appointments or infusions or chemos, everything else we were doing, all the doctor's appointments and just trying to be there. And of course, I had just retired the year before. And I was teaching at the university and community college level for a year, and then Jamie had just retired. And she got the diagnosis a week after her retirement party. So for us, that was something a lot of couples aren't going to have that opportunity. A lot of couples are going to be working, a 40-hour a week job, if not more. So much more difficult, I think, on some people. But for us, we were in a position where our retirement really helped us, forge ahead and charge ahead in many ways.
Mm-hmm. Jimmy, one of the reasons why I'm really excited for this episode as well is because Farrell, in this case, is the caregiver, and there's a male caregiver in this situation. And from our conversations, I just have so much respect for him, and it was really great to meet him now and be able to talk about it because of how he's handled supporting you. I'd love to hear from you what your experience of being supported by him was like.
It was, I couldn't have asked for anything better, honestly. I mean, we remained being the couple that we are. We did have our hard discussions, disagreements, and things like that. But from the very beginning, so when we finally got the diagnosis, knowing for sure 100% that it was breast cancer, we were out camping with some friends, and we knew we were going to get the phone call because our radiologist friend had he was looking at the biopsy that I had just had. And so we were all sitting around the camp. We had just finished paddleboarding, and we were sitting around the camp, got the diagnosis. And from the very get-go, Farrell was like, we're going to do this together. We're going to take it one day at a time. And I'm there for you. And he has always been very good at telling me that he loves me and that I'm beautiful and that, he's not going anywhere. Because at one point, well, I shouldn't say one point, I would say probably throughout the whole entire treatment, I was like, you didn't sign up for this. I mean, this is going to affect your whole entire, like, I didn't think that he was understanding that this was going to affect his whole entire life. And I felt guilty. I felt a lot of guilt and angry that I had been so healthy and with no major medical problems throughout my whole entire life. And so it was very difficult for me to process this, the understanding that this was going to affect his whole entire life. Because when you get a diagnosis like that, it's not just you, it's everyone who surrounds you, and especially the caregiver. And so there were times where I actually gave him an out. I said, if you want to, leave, especially after, like, we're in therapy now, we've talked about it. It's like, hey, I'm giving you an out. This is not what you signed up for. But then I had to come to the realization that, yes, it is what he signed up for when we got married. And so we take care of each other through sickness and in health and, all of that. We've lost 3 of our parents in the last 4 years. And that has been very difficult. And we've gone through all of that together. So now we've been going through this. He made me feel beautiful all the way through my treatment, even when I was flat out bald. He touched my head a lot, kissed my head a lot, told me I had a pretty head and all that stuff. So even though we did have our stresses, our ups and downs, I always knew that he was right there. So
Beautiful.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, you do have a pretty head. There was an ongoing joke when, I think back in maybe the 90s, when Demi Moore did the G.I. Jane movie and she shaved her head. They were saying that you can tell the beauty of a woman when she's actually bald versus, with lots of hair. So I love that the two of you have had that interaction. I love to have two more.
Farrell actually did shave my head.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. So at the beginning, I got this badass haircut to try to, sort of take control over losing that hair. And I told him, I said, once it starts falling out, once I start feeling it and pulling some of the hair out, we need to shave it. And he did. So we cut it into a pixie
Pixie Punk
haircut, and then he shaved it off, and we have video and pictures and everything, and
Wow.
that was great. And so when we talk about intimacy, that
Yes.
was part of that, because it was very meaningful to me. Because at first he says, "No, I don't want to shave your head." And I said, "Why?" And he says, "Because it's going to be very traumatic for you." And I said, "Babe, I already understand that it's traumatic, and that's why I'm taking control of it, and that's why I need you to do this." And so it was it was good.
And I did call her GI Jamie.
GI Jamie.
She is, because she's a fighter. I love it.
That's right.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah. My first follow-up question for you, Jamie, is, and you don't have to include this in the episode if you feel like it's too random, but one of the things that I enjoy or admire the most about you is how much of a giver you are. And I've seen that in the teaching world and just how you take care of your students and how much they come back to you in gratitude. And so you being a giver, you raised Farrell's 3 children. And, maybe Farrell at one point thought, hey, she didn't sign up for this. You did so much. And yet when it came time for you to be taken care of, there was some feeling of, oh, he didn't sign up for this. Let me give him an out. For the women who are going through that inability to, or the struggle of feeling like they have a hard time receiving the support, even though they're such great givers of the support, what would you say to them? And what is your thought behind like you having given so much, yet you had a hard time receiving at one point, but then you came around, which I thought was beautiful. Talk to us through that process.
I think it's very normal for women to feel that way, because a lot of women are really givers, and they are always giving to their friends, to their kids, to their spouse. And not to say that men aren't, because they are, but in my world, I've always been a giver. I've always been I want to please, I want to fix, I want to make somebody feel more comfortable. I have been there for people who have gone through illnesses, and I've brought them meals or donated to a GoFundMe or brought them gifts or whatever they needed. So I think to other women, it is normal to feel that way, and it's okay to feel that way, but it is also okay to just let people do things for you. And it was very overwhelming for me at first, because I had a whole flock of friends come over, and Farrell and my flock of friends put together a healing room for me. Farrell, put new flooring, painted, did all this stuff in our guest room, and made it into a room that I could go to when I needed to just go somewhere else and not be in the same bed. Because like after chemo, it's good to be in another room where you can just
Yes.
feel all the gross feels that chemo gives you. And so I had friends bringing me tons of gifts, meals, donated to a GoFundMe, and it took me a while to really be able to process that it's okay to receive that. And because I think that sometimes when you are a giver, you kind of have to know what it's like to be the receiver, to fully understand the efforts that you've given to other people.
Yes.
Because I never really knew how it was impacting other people from my giving, but now I do so much more. And I couldn't be more grateful for the support system that I had and still have.
Yes.
And she's definitely taken that giving, and she's helped other women. She met strangers at Cancer Care Specialist and advised them on her type of breast surgery. And some of them took her advice and went to New Orleans to the Restorative Breast Center to go through the surgery, the type of surgery they have there. And then just starting the blog and, having 12 episodes go out. And we have a friend right now who has colorectal cancer, who was helping Jamie early on, and now Jamie's helping her. And so it's just, the circle, keeps the wheel keeps spinning, as the Grateful Dead like to say. The wheel keeps turning.
Our dog has to go out. Hang on.
No problem. I love it. A
Yeah,
German,
well, that was
German, German
we have
Shepherd.
we have two German shepherds. Yes, they're our
Beautiful.
fur babies. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. But Jamie, thank you for sharing that because I think for women to learn and hear from you how to learn how to receive is huge. And during
It
this
really
period of
is.
time,
Yeah.
yeah, during a time of healing, being able to receive from others, which is my second follow up question for both Farrell and for you, is being loved and the emotion of being loved is so important for healing. And so, Farrell, I want to find out from you the process of showing more love during this period of time, what it was like for you, maybe even enjoying loving on her that much more during this period of time. And then, Jamie, for you, how much Farrell's love helped with your healing and just the emotions, the positive emotions that came from feeling beautiful and everything else.
Um, Sorry, big there. That will be edited out, I hope. Well, we have always had a very, I think, romantic relationship. The romance has always been there. And of course, it changed during this process in many ways. So, one of my favorite things to do is just to, grab her bald head and rub it like that and give it a kiss and just, still, tell her I loved her, tell her I think she's beautiful, that type of thing. Another thing we try to do was on her, when she got chemo, she was usually feeling terrible for 2 weeks. And on the third week, she started to come back out of it. Of course, then she had to go back in for the next treatment. But on that third week, we would try to get out of town. So I would pack up the trailer and I would take us someplace in the Sierras and we would go up in the mountains and just hang out and chill, and kind of get close to nature and just be with just the two of
Beautiful.
us together. So that was part of our treatment right there. I'm gonna get the dog.
Our dog now wants to go.
Not a problem. It's perfect.
I should have thought of that before.
No, not at all. I think it's great. That's what anything
Okay.
is for.
Yeah, so we went camping, and that was one thing that I needed to do. So the third week, we went to places that we had never been to, so we got to explore. So we tried to keep as normal as we possibly could because we normally would be going camping, and so we just made sure to have it planned and pick a place we had never been to. Really discovered some nice areas that we'll definitely be going back to, but it really did help. And it helped with my recovery from the treatment, and I got to wear all my turbans and beanies and everything. We were camping one time and there was really hardly anyone around. Like you could barely even see anyone. And we were just watching the sunset on the lake. And I thought, I'm just going to take off my turban or whatever I was wearing. And I had a little kimono on. So I was sitting in my chair with bald. And it was so wonderful. And we took pictures, we took selfies, weefies, Farrell calls it weefies. We took
Yeah.
weefies. And
Yes.
all of a sudden I heard that he went inside to go and cook dinner. And all of a sudden I heard this voice, hello. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I turned around and somebody was standing there. I'm like, hold on. It was like I was naked or something. And I had to put something on my head because I was like, oh my gosh, somebody's here. And it was just the camp host coming up to talk to us. And I told her, I said, I'm so sorry. I had my bald head. I have cancer. And she's like, I kind of figured, but it was just so funny because I felt so relaxed and okay with being bald at that point, sitting there camping. And so we've just had a really good time with that. They're good memories. We tried to make good memories. Let's put it that
Which is
way.
so smart. I mean, in both ways, I want to highlight again for everybody watching or listening the importance of creating an extra space in the house to be able to feel like you could be completely separate, but also for the two of you to be out and for there to be moments of privacy where you really could just feel like you could be totally yourself and not be seen by others. It's so important in the healing process. Very wise for the both of you to have done both of those things. I
Yeah,
wanted to find out. Go ahead.
go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I wanted to find out from both of you what some unexpected um, things were uh, throughout the process for the two of you individually. So maybe unexpected between the two of you, or unexpected from family or friends. But just, generally, what was unexpected for you, Farrell?
Well, as I said, I tried to keep an open mind and take it day by day. Watching Jamie go through the process, the treatment, was very hard for me. And I knew it was harder for her. Unexpected. I guess one of the biggest things was when she did decide to go to New Orleans for her mastectomy and for the reconstruction there. I was a little, I guess, wary, maybe upset about that. I was like, wait, you're leaving your medical team here. We've got a beautiful medical team we've put together, and now we're going to leave them and go to New Orleans, and it's thousands of miles away to do this. And so that um, it was a point of contention, but it's her decision, her breasts, her surgery, the way she wants to deal with it, and so I bought into it pretty quickly, and um, it was the best decision. It turned out to be an incredible decision to go down there and go to the Center for Restorative Breast Surgery and have them take care of everything. And I do refer to it as kind of a boutique hospital. Those were air quotes, boutique hospital, because I was able to stay in the room with her, and we had a chef come in, take our orders for for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The nurses were there to help me and teach me some skills to help her, because of course she when she was discharged, I was there to help her shower and um, change her drains, and measure the output of all of those, and give injections, which is something I hadn't done in 40 years. I was a former Army medic, but that was 40 years ago, and I haven't done anything medical in all of that time. But the nurses and the doctors, the physicians there were incredible, and they were really able to support me, and which helped me support Jamie as well.
Wow, that's so cool. And first of all, thank you for your service. But second, I think it's so great that you were able to learn all those things from the boutique hospital, to allow for your support of Jamie to be that much greater. A very good thing for those who are listening to take note of. I like that a lot. Jamie, what about you? What was unexpected for you? I know you talked about friends and family coming, or friends coming to your aid, and just the love that came out from there. But what else might have been unexpected?
Well, I think some of I would say part of it is what Farrell just talked about, is when I came to him with this idea of going to New Orleans. I was, I think it was unexpected that he had some resistance, and that was really difficult, because that was the point where I realized, wow, he has an opinion, a really strong opinion about what I might want to do with my body. And it's my body. It is my body. But I also at the same time want him to be part of that. I wanted him to be part of hearing the information I have. But I think the reason it was unexpected for him and for me is that it all came on so quickly, because originally I had heard about New Orleans back in the summertime, right after I was diagnosed. And I really kind of wasn't in that space to even hear anything about that at that time. So it wasn't until late October, after my chemo treatments had ended, that I had a few other people come forward and say, hey, there's this kind of surgery that you might want to look into. And they were from 3 different people. And so when I had finished that chemo, I went to the surgeon, and that's when I was told that I had to have a mastectomy on my left breast, and that we could keep the right one, and then we could go into get implants and reconstruction and all that stuff. Well, I had a really difficult time wrapping my mind around getting getting a mastectomy in the first place was just horrendous. I was in a very, very fearful place, and it was hard. And so, but getting implants is just something I just personally did not want to do. I have nothing against them for, everybody gets to make the decision for their own body. I just personally wanted to look more into this other option that I didn't know enough about. And so I wanted Farrell to be part of that. And just to be clear, Farrell and I, when we're talking about something and we have a difference of opinion, Farrell's kind of like the devil's advocate. So his first stop is being against or questioning or whatever something. And then a lot of times we'll come together and agree and realize that maybe this was the best decision or whatever. But it was unexpected that he would react the way that he did when I told him that this is something that I'm looking into and that I am researching. Now, Farrell knows very darn well that I research well. This is not something that I'm just jumping into and going to go to a back alley butcher to get my breast chopped off with somebody I don't know, right? I mean, this is obviously my body. So that was unexpected, but it was really nice. Within the next couple of days, he came around and started looking at the literature and the website and things like that. And he's right. It was the best decision that we could have made. And one of the reasons it was the best is because the Center for Restorative Breast Surgery they handle things in a holistic healing way. They treat the whole person, and that's what I needed. And I believe that's what everyone needs when they're going through something like this. It's not just, let's do a mastectomy reconstruction, send you home, and you're on your own to deal with your own stuff. No, this hospital, they were really great with mental health and really dealing with everything as a whole. And so I think that's real. Oh, and then also there was one other unexpected thing that I was really had a really hard time with. Farrell came home and told me one day that he wanted to buy a motorcycle. This was in October. This was in September or October. Came home and he told me he wanted to buy a motorcycle. I'm not a big motorcycle person. I've seen accidents, deaths and things like that. So I've really had time. So he wanted to do this. I'm thinking to myself, why the fuck are you buying a motorcycle in the middle of my chemo treatments? You know how fearful I am right now because of what I'm going through. And that was really hard for us. We went rounds on that. Now, I will tell you that he did buy that motorcycle and he has a total blast on it. And I'm okay with it now, sort of. But that was pretty unexpected because I was really angry with him for making that decision right in the middle of my chemo. Why couldn't you have bought this a year ago or in another year? But we got over that.
Yes. And I'm so grateful that the two of you are so open and vulnerable to talk about these things. So thank you, because this is not sugar coated. And I think a lot of people, conflict is real and hardship is real. And wanting to buy a motorcycle during this period of time is real. And we all have our own way of dealing with things. And I think for people who are listening to this and realizing, it wasn't a perfect hunky-dory situation for the two of you. Thank you for sharing openly about the hardships that you have both gone through and what was unexpected. I want to kind of close off with intimacy. And we mentioned that a little bit earlier about how him shaving your head was a beautiful, intimate experience. Very clearly, when one spouse gets sick, the ability to be intimate changes in the dynamic of the relationship. And so I just wanted to hear from both of you how that may have changed and what you would advise other couples who are going through a hard time, how to build intimacy the way that you two have during this period of time that's different than the typical way of intimacy.
I mean, from my perspective, it's just trying to be there for her and meet her needs, whatever they might be, whether she needs her medication or dinner or, nourishment, just telling her that I'm here and I'm not going anywhere. I think those are, some of the ways I tried to deal with the situation because I am in love with her. We've been together 21 years, and we spend almost every moment together, and I'm completely happy with her, and nothing's going to change for me. So that's kind of my outlook and perspective. And I
Beautiful.
trust her, and I trust her as well. So great deal of that is about trust.
Yes, I love it. Jimmy, what about for you?
I think that really coming together and helping each other understand that this is all new for us and we're going through this together, and none of us have experience with this. Now, other couples may have experience, but if you don't have experience with this, understanding that we both have our different perspectives and feelings, and allowing each other to walk through those emotions, whether it be anger, fear, whatever it is, allowing each other to feel the way that we feel and not trying to diminish the way that we feel. Farrell and I had to really come to that realization that, you know what, he might be feeling something that I don't understand at all. He's feeling something from a caregiver's point of view that I can't even understand because I've never been there before. And so for me to allow him to be pissed off or to be fearful or concerned, that he wants to try to fix things, and that's just a normal, I think, couple thing. I think that husbands always just want to fix things, or but in this case he couldn't fix it. All he could do was just be there with me and hold my hand and kiss my head and bathe me and give me my meds and take me to my appointments and tell me that he loves me and that he's not leaving me. And for a caregiver, it's important to allow both of you to sit in the uncomfortable, because it is damn uncomfortable. And when, especially like a husband watching a wife go through this, it's hard for them to watch them. And they kind of want to say things like, hey, we've got this. Everything's going to be okay. You're so strong, or things like that. There are a lot of toxic positivity comments that are normal to make, I think, but I think it's important to educate people on those toxic positive phrases that probably aren't as helpful. Probably one of the best things to say, I'm just so sorry, honey, what you're going through. I am here for you. I love you. It's okay to feel fearful or angry or whatever you're feeling, and sit in the uncomfortable. And sometimes it's good just to sit there and say nothing, just be and hold each other, if that makes sense.
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
and also, I think it's really important for caregivers to accept help themselves, because Farrell has a hard time accepting help. Like when we had a meal train going on, he was like, no, we can do this ourselves. I got this. Well, he can't do everything. And it's important for him to accept that as well, and to talking to other people about their experiences and using the resources that are available to you as a caregiver, because this is just not a smooth sailing situation.
Mm-mm.
There is a lot of help out there. Early on, Jamie connected me with was the American Cancer Association, who had a lot of help on and someone to talk to, but a lot of material to read and information about being a caregiver, that type of thing. So that was eye-opening in many ways for me, and made me more aware of my role, I guess, and responsibilities in some ways. And so, yeah, there's a lot of help out there, and you can find a lot of help. And of course, friends, that support is extremely valuable. Family and friends helping you out, and just being able to say thank you, and thank you for your support and your help and everything else. Because I'm pretty much I got this, that type of guy. And yeah, so
I have to nudge him to accept certain help. And so I still was there to be able to do that with him. And again, we're in therapy right now, and which I believe is very helpful because we get to talk about things and we get to just pull out some issues that that kind of have been weighing on both of us. And so just again continuing to hold that space and to realize that even after your cancer is gone and treatment is over, the healing is not over. It continues. And I do believe that our relationship is a whole hell of a lot stronger because of what we've gone through. Would I do it again? No, of course not. I wouldn't want to do this again, but I do see the silver linings. I do see a more clear path. And is it over? I don't know. I go get my PET scan on Wednesday for the first time. I'm scared of that. I remember because it brings back a little PTSD for me. I have some PTSD because a year ago when I went to go get my first PET scan, I got out of the car and I realized this was the same day I got my port installed. It was June 30th. I'll never forget it. I got out of the car and I looked up at the building and I just had this realization that holy moly, this is my life right now. Doctor's appointments, Farrell taking me to all these doctor's appointments. And I had a complete, utter meltdown in the parking lot. And Farrell had to sort of pick me up, pick up my water bottle that broke, and bring me in there to get the PET scan. So I'm going in on Wednesday to get this PET scan again. And I am nervous.
Well, of course, she had a double whammy, well, triple whammy, really, because it was the breast cancer. But when they discovered the breast cancer, they also discovered a thymoma tumor, intermediastinum, in her chest next to her heart, which was unrelated to the breast cancer. Like, where did that come from? So she had two major surgeries in 6 weeks. She had the mastectomy and double mastectomy, and the thoracic surgery to remove the tumor, the thymoma, which was like the surgeon described it as like a handball or something that was in there. But then the triple threat was, of course, the anemia that happened because the thymoma had suppressed her red blood cells from producing, and her hemoglobin levels were very, very low. So we had all kinds of problems that arose out of all of those different medical conditions that we were dealing with and rolling with. So, but now we're getting past it, and her hemoglobin levels, her anemia is starting to stabilize, and so you're looking at that light at the end of the tunnel, but try not to rush to get there, to speed to get there, just waiting for each diagnosis and the physicians and her medical team to say you're looking golden, and she's getting there.
Yeah, there are things that come up that that are unexpected, like the anemia. I'm on a medication, an immunosuppressant medication now for I don't know how long. It might be a year, it might be life. I don't know, but I was supposed to have my phase 2 breast surgery just last Thursday in New Orleans, which is where they do the revisions. And I was advised by my oncology team that I shouldn't do it because of the drug that I'm on. Well, I was really, really pissed off about that because I had made reservations, for airplane and I had paid for the surgery and everything. And I had to cancel all of it at the last minute. So that was just another thing that happened last week that threw me over the edge. And
it's another thing to roll with. I was expecting these obstacles, but it's just another thing that came up. I'm like, oh, we're all set to go. Okay, we're going to get phase 2 done, and now we're on hold again for phase 2. But it's going to come. We're at a delay.
Yeah,
we're just being delayed on that.
Wow, what a journey, Jamie! You've definitely earned the title of GI Jamie because that is a lot to have gone through. Yeah, and the two of you are just so open about the entire process of this, which is so important for those who are listening. Things aren't necessarily going to be smooth and not going to go according to plan. Is there anything left for the remainder of, I don't have any questions left, but I'd love to find out from the two of you if there's anything that you haven't shared yet that you still want to share with the audience.
Well, I mean, from my perspective, you need to be there and be a partner and a caregiver and everything you can do to support and help and comfort um, your spouse when they're going through this type of thing. And then at the same time, as I said, you do need to take a little bit of time for yourself and do something that you love to do every day. Whatever that might be. As I said, I like to go out and hike and bike or get on my dirt bike and head up into the mountains, that type of thing. Hit some golf balls, read. Jamie got me started on a writing project. So I'm kind of working on possibly, getting into writing a book right now, but just, you know, and take up new things. Life's not ending. Start new things. That's why I wanted a dirt bike. My son dirt bikes and my friend's dirt bike, and I'm like, I'm going to pick up a new hobby. Very dangerous hobby, but this is what I'm going to do. So I decided to do that to help myself escape and heal myself a little bit, comfort myself a little bit, and distract myself a little bit, I guess, from some of the things going on.
And for me, I just want people to know that when a diagnosis happens like this, your person is not going to be the same. I am Jamie Vaughn at the core. I just have a very different lifestyle now. I mean, we do go hiking, we do camp, and we do all that stuff. Um, as you know, I was a very, very busy person before cancer. I had a million things going on and a lot of stress, and all the while grieving the loss of my mom, grieving the loss of his two fathers. And it was a lot. And so when a diagnosis happens, a lot of times all of that stuff stops. And that's what it did for me, just because I had retired. So for the patient, it's important to find an outlet. I know that some people are very, very private, and that's okay. People get to process however they want to process and how they feel good about processing. For me, I'm a very open person. I immediately started a Facebook group, a private Facebook group, and that was my outlet. I got to go live. I got to keep everybody up to date on what was going on. I am a very much I'll tell you the good, the bad, the ugly. People saw me go bald. People saw everything. That was really good for me. What's good for me is not necessarily good for other people. And again, that's okay. But finding a way to process it, whether it be journaling, writing a book, whatever it takes, talking to some friends who may have gone through it, going to a therapy. And I think it's really important to know the statistics of divorces during these. I mean, it really tests the strength of your marriage, that's for sure. And I believe that the last I heard, 40% of marriages and relationships break up because of these diagnoses. So really, truly Farrell's sitting here interviewing with me on my podcast. That's not something that every man would do, or every spouse for that, it could woman or whatever. I think it's really important. It's healing because we get to talk it out. And when you talk it out, it can be uncomfortable, but it can also strengthen your marriage. So I really believe that when we allow each other to go through the change together. I mean, because after all, you are growing old together. You're not the same person. We're not the same as we were 21 years ago. We have grown in so many different ways, and we have more years to grow. We're going to be different when we're, 70 and whatever it is. So I just believe that rolling with that and talking with each other and allowing each other that space is really important.
Well, like you mentioned earlier, I wouldn't wish sickness on anyone, but if they were to go through sickness, you two have exemplified an incredible way of going through sickness together. I'm very inspired, and I admire the way that the two of you communicate and are there for each other, love on each other. It's just so, so important. So thank you for holding space for everyone listening today, and how much we have learned from your journey, and how their journey could be a little bit smoother because of what you have shared. So thank you.
Thank you so much, John. And I appreciate your being on this journey with me. I appreciate your interviewing me at the beginning and interviewing us now. I just feel that you are such a great interviewer. So you make us feel comfortable.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
Thank you, John. It's a pleasure meeting you. And I enjoyed talking through this.
And to my guests, thank you for joining us on Test Those Breasts, and we will see you next time on the next episode.